Brian Earl Spillner. Sounds like a serial killer name. Is that what you are?
No, man.
I'm a fan of the Fast and the Furious movies. I remember the first one, and I enjoyed it.
Really, the only word for it is...
Holy shit!
Too Fast, Too Furious. It was a fun thrill ride.
What you checking her out for?
I'm not checking her out. Drop it, I don't want to talk about it.
Drop it, hell. I want to hear about this, homie.
I said forget about it, cuz.
Tokyo Drift, I skipped that one when it was first released because it didn't have the original cast. But Vin Diesel showed up at the end of Tokyo Drift. Now, I have seen bits and pieces of Tokyo Drift, and I say that the action in there does look pretty entertaining. Fast and Furious. I was disappointed by that movie. I don't know what it was. I don't remember, but I just walked out of the theater feeling disappointed after watching that movie. I love Fast 5. It's directed by Justin Lin. He did Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious, and then he did Fast 5. And I love Fast 5 because it feels like a gritty crime, drama, action extravaganza. After Fast 5, I was super pumped for Fast 6. And I enjoyed Fast 6. I thought Fast 6 was fun. It was a bit more colorful than Fast 5. Fast and Furious 6 had more of a lighthearted tone to it, which I didn't mind, but I did miss that gritty aspect that Fast 5 delivered. Then Justin Lin stepped down, I think, to direct Star Trek Beyond, and I enjoyed Star Trek Beyond. But he is sorely missed. He is replaced by James Wan. James Wan is known as a horror director. He directed the first 2 Conjuring movies. And he directed a very interesting movie called Death Sentence. The way he directed that was, I think, very innovative. So I was curious to see what he would do with Furious 7. And from a directing standpoint, he was innovative in this as well. A lot of interesting camera techniques. It had that raw, gritty aspect to it that I missed from Fast 5. But the problem I had with Furious 7 is that I felt the story was way too sloppy. I was just expecting a movie where Jason Statham is the main villain and he goes head to head with Vin Diesel. And that's the whole movie, a revenge, gritty tale. But no, they introduce Mr. Nobody and then the God's Eye, and then I feel like Jason Statham's put on the back burner and he just pops up all over the place and it's very annoying. The story's all over the place. It's really sloppy in my opinion. But I still had fun with it, and then by the end when they did the tribute to Paul Walker celebrating his life within this franchise, it did make me cry. So I think Furious 7 was a very entertaining movie. As sloppy as it was, I still had fun with it, and the ending made me cry. Who knew people would cry during a Fast and Furious movie? But hey, it was a real tragedy, and they did a fantastic send-off to his character. I thought that the way Furious 7 ended was a perfect conclusion to this franchise. Then we got The Fate of the Furious, and that's directed by F. Gary Gray, and he was hot off of Straight Outta Compton, which I enjoyed. I was a bit nervous because I don't really recall him directing any action movies as big as this. I mean, the only thing I can think of is The Negotiator and Law Abiding Citizen. But with The Fate of the Furious, I don't know what my problem was with that. I don't remember, but I remember leaving the theater very disappointed. I didn't really enjoy The Fate of the Furious. Now we are here. After all of that, we are here at Fast 9, the Fast Saga, and who knows how many more they're going to make after this. But this movie kicks off, and we have Dom and Letty living in seclusion with their son Brian, and then Tyrese and Luda and Natalie show up, and they're like, hey, you know, Mr. Nobody disappeared, we have a mission. Dom's like, my kid though, I can't leave. And I was like, that makes sense, you have a kid, you know, that's why Brian retired. But then Letty's like, fuck that kid, I'm going on this mission, and I'm leaving you all behind. And when I saw that scene, I said in my mind, she's abandoning the child. But then again, you know, that's not biologically her son. So Michelle Rodriguez says deuces, and she leaves Dom behind with the kid. And the only reason Dom goes is because he discovers that, it's his brother who is behind the hijacking of Mr. Nobody's plane. And Mr. Nobody, throughout the whole movie, I'm wondering what happened to Kurt Russell. Because he's in like flashbacks, and then he's at the beginning in the video thing. But then it's like when they go to the crash site, Mr. Nobody isn't there. They even mention that. And then it's like I'm thinking, okay, is he kidnapped? Are they going to rescue him? But then by the end of the movie, it's like, well, what happened to Mr. Nobody? Apparently he didn't die in the crash. If he did, they took his body. Where is he? So that's, I don't know. It's a mystery. So then this action scene happens when they go to the crash site. And then when Dom shows up to the crash site, I'm like, what about the son? What happened to your son? So then there's this action scene and explosions, and I'm like, I kind of don't care. I'm numb to this by now. It's just explosions, but it's sort of fun. But the thing that got me is when we see Tyrese's character, and he's being surrounded by soldiers, and he's shooting and he's running and he's scared. And I felt for him. I'm like, okay, this is intense because he's scared. This is like emotion. But then he falls into this pit, and then he's surrounded, and it reminded me of when Dwayne Johnson was surrounded in Fast 5. Like, that scene in Fast 5 was so tense. I felt that Dwayne Johnson's character, Hobbs, was going to die right then and there. And so they recreated that here, kind of, in Fast and Furious 9. But then they play it for a comedic moment, because then he's, like, shooting wildly, nothing, and people, all of these soldiers are standing over him. He's just one guy. And they're all shooting at him, and none of them hit him. I was like, that's bullshit, man. And then he just is like firing wildly, and he kills all of them. And I was like, okay, they just ruined the suspense there. That is completely silly. But then they really got me when there was this action scene. Tyrese was coming out of the car, and as he was running, it looked like the truck, the vehicle, fell on top of him. And the way that was shot, I thought he was just crushed. And the way Luda and Natalie responded, I was like, oh my God, they killed Tyrese. Now the stakes are high. But then, nope. They fucked it up. He walks from behind the truck and he's perfectly fine. Now, at first I was pissed off about that. Like, this is some bullshit. Fuck this. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to give you points for that. I'm going to give that one to you because you had me. I thought you actually killed him, and I felt that. And then when he came around the corner, I was like, okay, I'm glad he's okay. So they got me twice with Tyrese's character at the beginning. But then we got more action. And then there's the bridge scene, which is just silly because it's like, okay, so Luda, Natalie, and Tyrese are in the Jeep. They're driving across the bridge. And as they're driving across the bridge is collapsing underneath them. There's like literally there's nothing. There's no solid substance there holding them up. You can see the bridge is collapsing underneath them. So and then they do this little joke at the end where it's like the bridge is gone. It's completely collapsed. And then the car just flies in the air. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just it's not suspenseful to me. It's just goofy. And then Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez, they're in the car. And you see it in the trailer. I don't know how he does it, but he Tarzans the car. And then he lands and it flips and the car is fucked up. But Michelle Rodriguez and Vin Diesel are perfectly fine. And see, here's the problem. There's no problem with fun entertainment. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, in order to really enjoy an action scene, I need to care about the character's well-being. Like I said, they got me with Tyrese. I'll give them that, even though later they played it for a joke. They got me, because I was like, oh my God, they killed him. But with Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez, the car flips, and then they feel like they're no-selling it. Like, at least like when I watch Casino Royale and they do that car flip with Bond, Daniel Craig is like, he's all dirty, he's bleeding, he's half unconscious. And with this, they're just like, oh man, whoa, that was fun. I'm like, they're not even selling. Like, at least in the first Fast and Furious movie, when Vin Diesel's car got wrecked and he came out of the car, he was at least holding his arm like, oh, I'm hurt. They didn't even act like they were hurt. At least in Furious 7, when Vin Diesel was rolling down the hill, he was acting like a little hurt. And I can accept what happened in Furious 7 when he was rolling down the hill, because they were mentioning that, oh, the car is caged. But in Fast and Furious 9, it's just a regular car, and it rolls, and they no-sell it, and so I don't care. It's not suspenseful. It's just like, okay, cool, CGI, fine, it's different, it's new, but I'm not entertained. I'm bored. Then we fast forward a little bit, and some stuff happens, and then we learn where the kid is, where Brian is. Because all of a sudden, Jordana Brewster pops up, and it makes sense why she's there, because it's her brother, too. And I was wondering at that moment, okay, wait a minute, you got out of the game because you have a kid. Where is your kid? And then Michelle Rodriguez mentions that, oh, they're with Brian, Paul Walker's character. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'll accept that. But then it's like they left Brian on mom duty. He's Mr. Mom now. And I think that would be an interesting spin-off. You know, see an entire movie of Brian taking care of the two kids. That would be interesting to see what was happening. So then Vin Diesel is tracking his brother, John Cena. And off the bat, I'm like, come on, man. How are they brothers? How are they brothers? And then they have Charlize Theron locked in a glass cage. And I'm like, they're wasting her character. She's not doing anything here. Because then by the end, she just works out a deal with the main bad guy, who I don't think he's memorable. But, you know, he's there helping out John Cena to do something, get some sort of technology. I don't even know, because I'm just like numb to it all. It's just action stuff happening. I don't care for like a big chunk of it. But I think the part of the movie that interests me are the flashback sequences that show the two brothers, Dom and Jacob. When we see those flashbacks, we see their dad. He dies in an explosion. And I felt that, you know, because like, oh, that's their father. And then we learned that Jacob did something to his father's car to cause the crash. And I felt that, you know, and it's like that brotherly emotion, but then, you know, you killed our father and he won't say why. So I felt it. It may be melodrama, but I thought that was the most interesting part of the middle portion of this movie. And then Han comes back to life, and I'll say this. Han's resurrection, I'm sorry, is bullshit. Now, when Letty came back, and what was it, Fast and Furious 6, when Letty came back, I accepted it, because when we saw, well, we didn't see her get killed in Fast and Furious. Let me remind you, if you've seen Fast and Furious, you know that we don't actually see her death scene. It's all in Dom's imagination, which they bring that back in Fast and Furious 9 of him like going, we're seeing inside of his mind and his memory and how he sees the situation play out. And that's all in his mind. We don't see Michelle Rodriguez get killed. So then when they resurrect her in Fast and Furious 6, they show what actually happened. I'm like, okay, I accept that because we never saw her die. But with Han, we saw him die. In Tokyo Drift, he died. I saw that scene. And he died in the explosion. And then they do it again in Fast and Furious 6 at the end credits. He dies. And they do it again in Furious 7. He's dead. But we don't see his body at the funeral. And now in Fast and Furious 9, I was like, okay, how are they going to resurrect him? And I think it's a lazy way. Because he just disappears. It's like they show the scene, Jason Statham's character throws the necklace. Then you see legs walk past the screen. And then Han just vanishes. And then you see Han in an alleyway with Mr. Nobody, because Mr. Nobody recruited him for something. So they're trying to connect all these pieces together, which is whatever. But it's like he just disappeared. I'm like, what was he, a hologram? How is he a hologram? Because in Tokyo Drift, we saw him get into the car. And it doesn't make any sense. It's just lazy. I don't like it. I'm sorry. Now we have our fight between Vin Diesel and John Cena. It's not very entertaining. I feel like it's too fast. I'm thinking, why else is John Cena in this movie? Because it's like, hey, just like Dwayne Johnson, we want to see Vin Diesel take on Dwayne Johnson. And that was it was an amazing, physical, brutal altercation that those two characters had in Fast 5. I felt all of the attacks. And then, like, with Jason Statham versus Dwayne Johnson. Fantastic. And then, like, why else is John Cena in here? Vin Diesel versus John Cena, let's do it. But it's so quick. And it happens so fast, and John Cena gets his ass whooped the majority of the time. But there's an awesome chase scene with the magnets, and then they're chasing down the cargo vehicle or whatever. And it reminds me of what happened in Furious 7 with that cargo vehicle. And it also reminds me of Deadpool. But it's like, yeah, they do it, and it's fun. It's exciting. Explosions. Yay. But the fight between Vin Diesel and John Cena, I think, could have been extended. It could have been longer. It could have been better. And then Tyrese and Luda's characters, they go to space to do something with some satellite. I really don't know. I'm not following the story. I'm just watching the action. And so they go to space, and visually I was impressed. I was like, okay, cool. I was excited. And then, like, with the acting from Luda and Tyrese, they sold it perfectly. When they were, like, thinking they were going to die, I knew they weren't going to die. But they were like, you know, oh yeah, we got to fucking do this. Like, I love the banter between Luda and Tyrese. It's fantastic. It's always top-notch funny. And then, like, when Luda's like, oh, it's all science, and Tyrese is like, it's faith, and then they're arguing, and then Luda's machine shuts down, and then Tyrese's like, let's just crash into it, man. We got nothing to lose. And then Luda's like, let's do it. So I felt that. That was cool. I liked it. And then when they were waving at the end to the astronauts, I laughed at that. I thought that was funny. But then, like, the movie ends, and it's predictable, you know, but it is a fun, entertaining thrill ride. The story doesn't matter. Just have fun with it. And I did. Overall, my verdict for this movie is it's good. This is a good Fast and Furious movie. It's not my favorite. I don't think it's the best one. I still think that Fast 5 is this franchise's peak. I feel that I will watch the next installment until this franchise officially ends, because they've already hooked me with these characters. I care about these characters. I think it's a beautiful thing to watch the entire series and to become familiar with these characters, so that when they show the next Fast and Furious movie, we are already invested emotionally into these characters, so then when they do go on their shenanigans, it's like, all right, I had fun. I'd watch this movie again. The very end of this movie, I thought was great, because they do the normal, hey, you know, we're a family and we're at the Toretto house from the first movie. It's always great when they go back there. They're rebuilding it, which is great. And then, you know, the whole family's at the table. We got Bow Wow back. We got Lucas Black back. Hopefully, you know, they're in the next movie. And they do show Paul Walker, but they don't show Paul Walker. They have a little thing where they're like, oh, there's one empty seat. And then you hear the revving of the car, and then the car pulls in, and then you're assuming, okay, yeah, that's Paul Walker's character, Brian, in the car. And that was a nice touch. I think they did it very tastefully. You know, they didn't do CGI and show his face and all that kind of stuff, and they didn't need to. You just know that his presence is still felt within this franchise, and it's great that he's still out there, you know. But as far as the next movie goes, it's like, is his character gonna be stuck on mom duty again? It's like, come on, man, you know. Vin Diesel and Michelle leave their kids with Brian, because, you know, even Vin Diesel's character mentions, hey, Brian and Mia walked away, but Michelle Rodriguez is like, we're not them, you know, whatever. But I enjoyed this movie. It was fun. It was entertaining. And, you know, I feel like if you have been a longtime fan of this franchise, you'll enjoy this movie. I feel like if you watch this movie and you haven't seen any of the other Fast and Furious movies, you will not know what's happening. But it says Fast 9, so you have had to have got up to speed by this point. And yeah, I'm interested in the next installment. That's all I have to say.
Damn.